Alright, hopefully you can see this. I'm gonna use about 8 by 10, and here's the picture. So I'm gonna start, I think I'm gonna include more sky. So I'm starting here with the background. I got my charcoal. So I'm looking for those intersections. Okay. So I'm just using the width of this to, instead of drawing an outline completely. Okay, so I made a little mistake. I gotta bring this down below this. So I'll make this smaller. So from behind those trees, basically to where this line is, like right behind all these dark trees, that's all background. And then this is gonna be your middle ground, maybe right up to the river, or maybe even part of the river, and then from the river this way is gonna be your foreground. Okay, I have to make adjustments again. I went too far down. I have to erase that. Okay, that's this shape right here. That's a slight angle. And I'm gonna stop it right, well, we'll see. I'll stop it around here. Okay, so I got a square picture, and you know, if you wanted to, you could extend the sky as much as you want, or if you wanted to compress some things a little bit more. The thing is that you got to be careful about, like, if you have the same amount, see, this is a little bit smaller, and then I have a sliver of background, so as long as, you know, this is like almost 50-50, right? So if you look at land to sky, I'm a little bit outside of 50-50, so that's good. But if, let's say, my land was exactly 50-50, that's okay too, as long as the way that you treat, the way that it recedes back and forth will sort of offset the 50-50 look. But it's almost better to have like a 60-40 or 70-30, either more sky to land. You know, I'm like right outside of that, and then the way you can break that up too is if the sky feels like it's too close to the amount of land, then you break that up with clouds. So that's the first part, and I'm gonna go spray fix it, and then I'm gonna put matte medium over it, and then the second part will be the painting. All right, it's been spray fixed. I don't know if you can see, but it's a little bit still wet, and from here it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go ahead and show you. Once it dries, I'll take some matte medium to it. I'm most likely going to go only in one direction, unless you want that kind of canvas texture, then you go two directions, but it doesn't really matter. You can just get away with doing one. All right, so let's apply the matte medium. So as you can see, because I fixed it, it's not smearing. It's a pretty key ingredient in making sure that you're. So if you use willow or vine or whatever, maybe some of it will smear a little bit, but if you fix it first, spray fix it, it should minimize that. But I use regular charcoal pencil, just because I like the level of clarity that I'm able to get with it. So now I'm gonna let it dry, and then we'll start the actual painting process. All right, so let's get going. So I'm going to start with the sky, white, cobalt blue, and you want just a slightly darker blue as it goes up. Not quite where I want. There we go. That's the blue I want. So I'm not going to paint any clouds for the sake of simplicity. First, I just want to see what it's going to look like. And so I have my colors flipped here. I want the dark to be at the top. So what I'm going to do now is add, while it's wet, add some white to the bottom, and I'm going to add just a tiny amount of violet or alizarin. I mean, where's the tiniest amount? And then I'm going to test it. Almost. So I want to try not to disturb the paint beneath. So you want to try and make sure you're laying the paint down in a way that is depositing paint and you're not picking it up. So sometimes you want to lay down more paint, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do here in a minute. Okay, and then it's just to make the transition again. This is just how I would approach like a first pass. Now if I didn't like this, one thing that you could do is go back into it. Like let's say I wanted even more blue up here. Then you just go back into it and then start bringing some of that blue down. But a lot of this depends on like whatever you've observed, and I want you to take note of like how much time I might be spending in one area versus if you're sort of mentally running through this, like how much time would you spend on it, and kind of compare notes. So if you're not spending enough time in the sky, then you know maybe it's something you should try, spend more time. Okay, so looks okay for the first pass, and we're gonna block in this blue section. I don't know if you can see that. You'll be following along hopefully in your, and it's a different blue. So I'm going to, it's a warmer blue. So I'm gonna take my cobalt and then a tiny amount of brown, and then I'm gonna add a tiny amount of alizarin. Of course, you could do this with Cad Red too. So it kind of dirties it up a little bit. I'll pick up, let's see if I have any active Cad Red. A little bit more. A little bit more blue. And then we gotta lighten this up. It's a little more red. Okay, and then we'll check it. That's pretty close. Maybe a little bit more blue. And then just pay attention to like how methodical you have to be at holding the brush further back. And I'm only interested in depositing, you know, the right amount of paint. with this, you're gonna have to choose a general idea of the color. So it's kind of a reddish brown, a little bit of violet. So I'm gonna use that alizarin. You could use you could just go straight cad red and yellow ochre or raw sienna. So this is what it's got, a little bit of blue in it. So you got to get that kind of violet dirt color. And so what I would do first is just generically pass over it. So there's a little bit of shadow that you probably want to nail pretty early on. Mostly blue, tiny bit of brown. We'll see what it looks like. Could be bluer. Again, I'm just making shapes with blobs of paint. I'm not 100% worried about if it's 100% accurate. And then I take this color and I mix it, and see, to what I had. I want to be able to kind of chisel. I want that sharp. But so let's go back to that other color. Yellow ochre, cad red, cobalt, that kind of violet pink. We'll see how close that is. That might be too brown. Yep. A little more blue. And a little bit more red. Okay. A little more blue. Too dark. Move this up a little bit while you can see. And You know, this is a kind of a big brush for the job, but it's better to have a little bit of overlap and have it bleed into some of those areas in the first pass than to use a tiny brush that's not going to work. See, once you lay down a color, it doesn't have to be exact to what you see, as long as you're sort of playing with these relationships and these shapes. Like it just has to be believable. Your values have to be believable, your shapes have to be believable. And then the play between your temperature should be believable enough. Okay, now we need more yellow ochre, some white. Okay, now we're getting into some of the greens. Let me lay out some lit yellow So this is just cad yellow. You can use green if you want. Doesn't really matter if you're making your own or not. But let's just make our own. I'll start with some yellow. Then I got the cobalt. So you want to control how cool or how warm the green is, and that's pretty cool back there. I'll add a tiny bit of red. And see, it kind of neutralizes it and cools it off a little bit. Now we gotta make it light. And we'll see. It might be too dark. Just a little bit more white. The problem with the white is it's really strong. Yeah, it'll definitely kill your color.